Welcome back to Design, Engineer, and Build. I hope you can appreciate at least the setup of the drawing that I started. I know it's a little bit hurried to watch, but it's a very important step in this project. Then I have to realize exactly how I'm going to put this together and in what order. That certainly is very important as well. So I thought if I had a frame on the top of the cooking area and a frame to support the grill and flat top, and if I had a frame on the bottom that would also keep that structure square, that would probably be the best way to do that. So I've started today in making that, and one of the very important things to consider is to make sure that both these frames that I'm going to make for either side are going to be as square and as straight as I can make them. So I cut out a piece of plywood after taking the sizes that I'm going to use for my frames. I've got those listed in size, largest to smallest. I cut out a piece of plywood that will keep those frames square. Put holes in it so that when I put the angle iron on here, now the frames or the angle iron is 1/8 inch by 1 inch iron. So the frame sizes that I'm making are 1/4 inch shy of the size of my plywood, if that makes sense. Because by putting this on, I'm gaining 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch here and an 1/8 inch here on either side. So I'm cutting the 1 inch angle. I'll use these holes to clamp this frame in place, and then I'll weld these frames in succession. And once I get these, I need 2 for the right-hand side, which will be the grill grate side, and I need 2 for the flat top side. The bottom one will be slightly bigger, and you'll see as we go along exactly why, but there's 2 different sizes on the left-hand side. So we'll cut those, but as I cut those, I can decrease the size of this plywood and really only have to use 1 piece of plywood. I'll just cut and trim this plywood as I decrease in sizes of my frame. So that's where I am right now. I've started cutting out the 2 for the grate side, and I was using the Evolution cutoff saw, which gives me an accurate cut, but it could certainly be done with an angle grinder if you're very careful. So that's where I am right now. So I'll clamp these onto that plywood piece, and we'll weld those corners up and get at least these 2 frames started. Now, as one might anticipate, making a plywood form that you're welding over probably does cause some burning. Really wasn't an issue for the most part. Just kind of blow it out as you go, and it was pretty much self-contained. The nice part about that is the form gets smaller and smaller, and now I'm on the second set of square forms that I need to weld, and I was able to cut the burn spots off, as well as the next set that I have to do after this. The one form requires that all of the edges are facing up. That would be the top. The grill will set, we'll put it on the form like this inside, and the grills then will set over the top of this. The bottom one has all edges facing this way, but the front edge has it tipped down. I'm going to put a little shelf in there that'll be at the bottom of the build of this cooking area. There'll be a shelf that slides in and out for cleaning, repair, etc. So I want that little area open for a steel shelf to fit in. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And I've got now the 2 forms for the other side to weld up, and I'll get to that. Since my last taping, I've been able to cut out some shapes that need to be cut for this project. And even 10 gauge, it cuts pretty well with the jigsaw and a metal blade. I was actually quite surprised. I cut out four of this shape, which will be the side. There's a left side, a right side, obviously, and then there's the center divider for the grill side, the grate side, and the flat top side. So I've got four of these cut out. Since then, I've taken the edge of the two pieces and sanded the edge off to make room for some weld. So the leading edge of this and the side that you'll see with the grill was welded. I brought that out to the welder, welded this edge, and then periodically kind of threw out, made some spots here and there to keep this together and keep it from warping. So plans are plans. You try to get as close as you can. But to really make a final determination on my width, I will reposition my camera here and show you. I got the frames laid out. On the ground. And they will be side by side in this configuration. And I'm looking at about 46.5 for both of these. And if I swing this around, these are the side plates and the middle plate that I've cut already. And that total width is just over a half. So I'm looking at about 47 inches for the entire width. From that, then I will determine my working width, and I'll cut both the front and the back to that length. And we'll go from there. There's one other piece that I think I'm going to cut as well, and that will be the shelves. This is the bottom frame. This is the front of the bottom frame. The shelf that will fit in and slide in and out for cleaning, maintenance, whatever else you need to do within the grill. I'm going to give those a cut too. Since I've got the determination of size right here, I'll cut those out as well. And I plan on putting a right angle bend on those, but as long as I cut them to width right now, I'll get the bend done at a later date. And I think the most efficient way to stick a lot of these pieces of metal together is to drill holes along their attachment points, and then fill in those holes with weld when it's all put together and in place, to hold them in place. You probably could drill holes and bolt this all together, but since I have the advantage of a welder, I think that's the best way to do it. So I'm drilling holes. I'm starting with a 13/16. You can start with anything, but ultimately I'm ending with a 3/8 bit to fill those holes with weld and attach it to the metal on the back side of that weld. So that's what I'm doing right now. This happens to be the front, and I'm taking each one, of course, after marking it to where I want to put my hole, and punch it. So I've got a start point for my drill, starting with the 13/16 and ending with that 3/8 inch hole to be eventually filled with weld to make those attachments. that's all the other parts. This is the front. The back will be the same way, except a few more holes. And the sides the same. The corners, or the legs, will come up, meet with these holes on the front side, and we'll weld right through there and attach those to each other. Now, I have been busy building parts and pieces for this grill, and I'll just kind of walk through them with you. I think we did look at some of these things, but I did the legs yesterday, and just as a brief description, this is the length here from the grill, the bottom of the grill, to the caster at the bottom. This is what will sit, the side will sit, front or back will sit on this and be welded in place. And then again, at the very bottom, I cut out plates for the casters, and those will be put on as well, like so. So that's the legs. The frames we looked at before, but I'm not sure if for the top, for the flat top, it's got little legs. So I cut out little areas there so the whole top will be indexed into those and won't shift or move while you're grilling. This is the bottom frame where the shelf slides in for both sides, shelf on there, and then this will be the rest for the grill grates that'll go on here as well. This is the front. Now if you notice, I've cut it to length after I measured both of these frames, put this in the middle as that is our middle divider, got that width of the grill, cut these to length, and then I drilled these holes on either side, which will be set in here like so, and then clamped, and then these holes will be welded flush with the top of here to hold these parts in place. This is the back. Again, the holes on either side. And then this is the middle, which duplicate of these, but it's two of them and I welded them together. Why? Well, because I bought a 4x8 sheet of steel and I didn't want to waste it. And actually, I tend to build things a little heavier than they probably need to be anyway, so that's my best excuse. Again, I brought this all out to my, and by the way, welcome to my garage. But I brought this all out and I've clamped this in place. This is the back and the front. They're even on the ends, both sides. I've got the frames all in place, end to end, plus the middle. And I'm just checking now the sides to make sure that they're not too long, too short, whatever, or need adjustment. Now would be the time to do it before we make the welds and tack them all together, because these frames are not easily changed. And I've got a confession. Actually, when I did that, I realized that my ends, I cut them just slightly too long, so I've now since made those adjustments, grinded those edges off, and pretty much ready to proceed now with putting some of this together. So here's my setup for my first weld tack. This will be the grill side. This is the back, just so an orientation, the center divider. Because these are 1 inch, and I want this rest to be about 3/4 inch under my 6-inch level for that top. I measured to the underside here, drew a line at 4 1/4 inches for this edge to be tacked. extended that 4 1/4 line up here, and for the other side, extended it up this side. I've got everything clamped in place, and I'm just going to tack along this side. I'll double check my line again, do probably a little more clamping here, and tack it along this underside as well. So I got this other side mocked up. It's a side for the flat top. You'll notice the indents. It'll be indexed for the flat top. You'll also notice there's a gap here because the grates are actually wider than the flat top by about 1 inch. So I am going to take the scrap from cutting those segments out of the leg. These are the 2 segments out of the short leg. Cut this edge to 1 inch and at 9 1/2 this way, and weld it to the back side of this, and then tack it for that side's adhesion to that back side. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm going to cut this to 1 inch, clean this up a little bit, cut it to 9 1/2, both these to 9 1/2. Now that'll leave a gap, obviously, but that's where the grease drain is on that. And I will make that at a later date. But right now I need to get access for that grease drain. So this section will eventually be cut out, and then a grease drain or trough, whatever you want to call it, will be welded in place there. So after cutting those 2 scraps about 1 inch wide on one edge, I laid them in there, welded them to the frame first, and then tack welded them to the larger frame. And then cinch, as you can see, I've just went along and tacked everything, and the frames then are all tacked on to the back and to the center, and then I ran a couple beads right down the middle. So that's where I'm at. I think next I'll probably put the front on, and I've already drawn a line, and that will correspond with the bottom of the frame on that side. So we'll turn it around, or turn it however I need to turn it, and we'll get those tacked on as well. Now, as you can see, I've got the one bottom frame clamped in. We'll tack that along its inside edge, and then we'll go to the other side and do that side. So I'm pretty much finished for today, but just a little bit of a tour. That's the bottom edge where the drawer will go in. This is the front. And as we come up, I don't want to move too fast to make everybody dizzy here. This is the flat top side. Got the bottom and the top frame in. This is where the grease will come out of the back side of that flat top. I need to drill, obviously make a hole here and a chute or a little trough for that. And then the other side, just to illustrate how this goes, I did have one piece of grate up here just to do some measuring, but that sits in there relatively snug. And again, both the top and the bottom frames are in. The center's pretty much in, and I'm calling it a day.